Hello, everyone, and welcome to Greyhammer. Today, we're going to be doing our D&D for Dingbats, episode 7. It's kind of crazy we've gotten this far. We're going to do a more deep dive into equipment. It's going to be a somewhat short episode, which I think makes it pretty reasonable for people to be able to watch it. I like long form content, but I understand that current culture does not. Uh, so let's get on to it. Weapons. We've already gone over weapons briefly, but we'll go over weapons and other equipment in more detail because weapons have different abilities. As much as last time we just covered the damage that different weapons do, and I think I actually corrected a few of them that I believe I got wrong on the previous episodes. Here are some weapon traits that different weapons may have, so keep them in your mind while we go over them, because then we're going to go and cover each weapon and what features they have. Ammunition. This is a simple one. You can only fire the weapon if you have the correct ammunition. For some odd reason, I don't think the weapon actually says what it fires, but bows shoot arrows, crossbows shoot bolts, blowguns shoot pellets, slings shoot rocks. Loading requires a freehand, so you can't do like a shield and a crossbow, which I definitely think could be a cool one, like a Pavis crossbowman. You should make a special shield that you can buy that gives you ignore that feature of the ammunition because historically that's accurate. But finesse, you can pick whether to use strength or dexterity when making an attack with the weapon. So usually with melee weapons, you can only use strength. With a finesse weapon, like a dagger as an example, a short sword, you can use dexterity instead of strength. So your dexterity-based melee combatants can use those finesse weapons to better make their attacks. Heavy, small, and tiny creatures, so like halflings, things of that nature, they have disadvantage using the heavy weapons. And then the others are here. Light, you can use this weapon as an offhand weapon. If it doesn't have light, you can't use it in your offhand. Loading, you can only ever fire one piece of ammunition from a loading weapon. Even if you have 2 attacks, you can only fire once. There are abilities that allow you to counteract this. We'll go over those later. That's going to be a bit of a complicated section. Range. The range the weapon can fire, it will be given with 2 ranges. So one, if you're within that range that is in the first slot, you're in close range, so you can just fire as normal. If you're between that range and the second range, you're considered long, so you'd be at disadvantage. Reach. Your melee weapon's reach is increased by 5 feet. That includes opportunity attacks, so you have a 10-foot bubble but we'll get into that in combat. So I'll reference back to this video in that. Thrown, you can throw the weapon using whatever attack ability you would use as the melee weapon. So if you have a finesse thrown weapon, you can use dexterity or strength. If you have just a regular thrown weapon, you would use strength. Then two-handed, the weapon requires 2 hands to use, and versatile, the weapon can be used with 1 or 2 hands. It typically does more damage with 2 hands. And by typically, I mean always. So let's get into exactly what you've got here. So some simple melee weapons. Club is D4 bludgeoning and light, so you can use it as an offhand, that's about it. Dagger is 1d4 piercing damage. It's finesse and light, and it's thrown. So you can throw it using strength or dexterity. You can attack with it in melee using strength and dexterity, and it's an offhand weapon. Great Club is 1d8 bludgeoning, but it requires 2 hands. Hand Axe is 1d6 slashing. It is a light weapon, and it is thrown. Javelin is 1d6 piercing. It's also thrown, but at a longer range. And then Light Hammer is 1d4 bludgeoning. It's also thrown, but back at that 20, 60. So if you're attacking someone within 20 feet, if you're throwing it at someone within 20 feet, then you'd attack as normally. If it's between 20 and 60 feet, you'd have disadvantage. Mace, just a straight 1d6 bludgeoning, pretty standard. Quarterstaff is 1d6 bludgeoning or 1d8 if you're using it with 2 hands. Sickle is 1d4 slashing and is light, so you can use that as an offhand. Spear, 1d6 piercing, you can throw it, and it's versatile, so 1d8 damage if you're using it with 2 hands. Some simple ranged weapons. You've got your light crossbow, which is your 1d8 piercing. It does have ammunition, so you have to have a free hand while using your crossbow. It has a range of 80 short range and 320 long range. It is loading, so you can only fire with it once, and it's two-handed. So when you're not shooting it, or when you are shooting it, you need two hands to reload it. It uses the one hand. Dart is 1d4 piercing. It's a finesse weapon, and it's thrown. Short bow is 1d6 piercing, ammunition, range of 80, 320, and it's two-handed. So you can get multiple shots with bows. Sling is 1d4 bludgeoning, ammunition, and range 30 and 120. Also, I believe the ammunition, if you're out, I believe just anywhere, you are able to find ammunition. You don't require ammunition, really. It's just you have to have a free hand. Some martial melee weapons, so a lot going on here. Battle Axe is 1d8 slashing, but you can hold it with two hands to do 1d10 slashing damage. Flail is just a standard 1d8 bludgeoning. Glaive is 1d10 slashing damage. It's a heavy weapon. It's got reach, so 10-foot range, and it's two-handed. Great Axe is 1d12 slashing damage. It is heavy and is two-handed. Great Sword is 2d6 slashing. It is heavy and two-handed. Halberd is 1d10 slashing. It is heavy, reach, and two-handed. This really annoys me that halberd and glaive are not the same weapon. A glaive is a version of, or a halberd is a version of the glaive. Just they're a blade with points on them as well. I don't know. It's dumb to me. Lance is 1d12 piercing, has reach. It's two-handed if you're not mounted. Very specific rule there. DMs, just as a note, if you have a centaur playing in your campaign that's from an expansion pack, allow them to use a lance with one hand. Thematically, it's amazing. Longsword, 1d8 piercing, and it's versatile, so it's 1d10 if you're using it with two hands. Maul, it's 2d6 bludgeoning. It's heavy and two-handed. Morningstar, 1d8 piercing. And then Pike is 1d10 piercing. It's heavy, it has reach, and it's two-handed. Just FYI, I'd also love to see a rule for a special shield that doesn't require a hand to use, that you just sling on your shoulder. Would need some negatives. Like maybe it only gives +1 to your AC. I don't know. Because that's what they used for in Macedonians with pike formations. Just a little bit of history blurb. Rapier, you have 1d8 piercing damage, and it's finesse, so you can use it with strength or dexterity. Scimitar, 1d6 slashing, it's finesse and light, so you can use a scimitar in your offhand. Short sword is 1d6 piercing, it's finesse and light. Trident is 1d6 piercing, you can throw it. You can hold it with two hands to use 1d8 damage. And then Warpick is just standard 1d8 piercing damage. Warhammer is 1d8 bludgeoning damage, though it can do 1d10 if you use it with two hands. And then a whip is 1d4 slashing damage, it's finesse, and it's got reach. Martial ranged weapons. Blowgun is 1 piercing damage. It has the ammunition keyword range of 25 feet to 100 feet, and it is loading. Hand crossbow is 1d6 piercing, ammunition range of 30 to 120. It is light and loading. There are some cool things you can do with crossbows later on if you take a feat where you can do a sword and hand crossbow build. Heavy crossbow is 1d10 piercing, ammunition range of 100 to 400. It's heavy, loading, two-handed. Long bow is 1d8 piercing, ammunition range of 150 to 600, and it's heavy and two-handed. And then net. If you hit a creature that is large or smaller, they are restrained. A creature can use its action to make a DC 10 strength check to free itself or an ally. Dealing 5 damage, the net has an AC of 10, also frees the ally. We'll go over that a bit more in combat. So, basically you roll to hit with it, and you can entrap things. We're going to go over the packs real shortly and just kind of what you can use them for. The Burglar's Pack is a useful pack to break into locked areas and cause general mayhem. It contains a backpack, 1,000 ball bearings, 10 feet of string, a bell, 5 candles, a crowbar, a hammer, 10 pythons, which are basically just climbing stakes, a hooded lantern, 2 flasks of oil, 5 days of rations, tinderbox, water skin, 50 feet of hempen rope. If you want any more information about any of those items, they are in the player's handbook. Diplomat's Pack is useful when preparing for social outings and making the party presentable. It includes a chest, 2 cases for maps and scrolls, some fine clothes, a bottle of ink, an ink pen, lamp, 2 flasks of oil, 5 sheets of paper, a vial of perfume, sealing wax, and soap. Just kind of an odds and ends pack for the fancy people in your D&D campaign. Your Dungeoneer's Pack is useful all-around kit for exploring dangerous dungeons. It comes with a backpack, a crowbar, a hammer, 10 pythons, 10 torches, a tinderbox, 10 days of rations, a water skin, and 50 feet of hempen rope. The Entertainer's Pack is useful for some social situations when needing to kind of sneak the party. Comes with a backpack, a bedroll, 2 costumes, 5 candles, 5 days of rations, a water skin, and a disguise kit. Can be some fun things you do with that. The Explorer's Pack is kind of like the Dungeoneer's Pack, but more for the wilderness. It's camping out and exploring the wilds, coming with a backpack, a bedroll, a mess kit, tinderbox, 10 torches, 10 days of rations, a water skin, and 50 feet of hempen rope. The Priest Pack is useful for priestly and religious duties. It's more role-playing than anything. Your DM may allow you to do some cool stuff with it, but you have a backpack, a blanket, 10 candles, a tinderbox, an alms box, 2 sticks of incense, a censer, a vestment, 2 days of rations, and a water skin. Scholar's Pack, it's useful for writing notes and obtaining information. It's a backpack, a book of lore, bottles of ink, a bottle of ink, an ink pen, 10 sheets of parchment, a small bag of sand, and a small knife. Work with your DM as to what the Book of Lore is about, what it can be about. But yeah, you can write things down using the ink and then the small sand to dry it out. So kind of some role-playing situations you can do there. But that's going to be it for this episode. Please let me know what of these items of equipment you'd like to equip your character with this kind of starting equipment that we went over a bit last episode, which I'm going to link up in the top right. I'll see you in the next episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and goodbye.